Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric series at an analog in your pocket. Are you just happy to see me? And today we're going to be doing an overview of the new Combatribes core from CoinOpCollection to track 17 on Analogue Pocket. If you're not familiar with the Combatribes, it's either a definite love it or hate it game. It's got a lot of fun to be had, but it also has a lot of repetition. Kind of feels like one of those titles you're not quite sure what to think of it. But we're more here to talk about the game and an FPGA core than we are to review it. Before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, the Combatribes definitely has a vibe. It is technos through and through with the super deformed characters and the overall cartoony nature that you see on all of the sprites. And that's definitely something that Technos Japan was known for. We've talked about the different WWF games on Analogue Pocket and MiSTer FPGA, and there's a direct lineage between those and the Combatribes as far as the graphics are concerned. If that isn't just a straight Hulk Hogan right there in the red shirt, I don't know what is. But the Combatribes is an interesting game. The beat 'em up mechanics are sound, but it never really seems to go anywhere. You're going to spend 2, 3, 4 minutes on the same exact screen fighting waves of enemies, and then suddenly you're going to go to the next stage and you're going to be fighting through a circus with dancing cats in the background and clowns. This game basically just does whatever it wants to at any given moment in time, showing you things that feel completely disparate and confusing, but because the beat 'em up mechanics are competent and the game has a lot of strangeness to it, you're going to kind of stick with it and want to see what actually happens in the end. And if that's not Karnov there, I don't know who it is. But this is the thing about the Combatribes, it is such a strange game. It pulls you in even though you're not sure why. And as far as an FPGA implementation here on Analogue Pocket, it seems to be doing every single thing the arcade board does. I do have a board for this in the closet, but it doesn't have any sound right now. Something in progress of repair. I think I got it for like $40 total shipped. Figured I'd just pick it up and add it in there for some fun on game nights. But you'll see here as we get to the top of the circus and you're in Technos land, I do love the colorways in this game. I love the visuals and I love how they come across. And then in the next stage you're basically fighting roller hockey arena people, throwing different pinball machines at them. The Combatribes just absolutely has no idea what it wants to be at any moment in time, but it just says the hell with it and decides to do it anyway. Now as far as the FPGA implementation here, again, seems to be adhering exactly as to what I would expect. The music is good, the controls are tight, I didn't see any graphical glitches in the entirety of this game, and that makes sense because it seems like the CoinOpCollection has this hardware buttoned up from some of the earlier releases. But you tell me down below in the comments, did you play Combatribes back in the day? Have you played it recently? Did you play it on Super Nintendo? Because this thing did get ported home with a really good port, but honestly the arcade original is still the best. But as we move on to the next stage here, this is going to be the entirety of the stage in the Combatribes. This one baseball arena, you can scroll left, you can scroll right, but it's going to actually be all you see in this one particular area. Now some other stages have a little bit more to see and do, but for a lot of the times it feels like this game's not really finished. Like Technos Japan had to rush it to market to try to get some income in the doors, so they figured let's just elongate the stages by giving you like 40 to 50 different enemies with huge health bars to beat, and then we'll move on to the next area so we don't have to draw too much background art. And you'll see here this Native American chief that jumped down is going to be an absolute hit sponge, and trust me, it is a beat 'em up, so you're going to have to fight all of these bosses again at the end of the game, and I will show you how long that actually takes because it is relatively hilarious. But this is still a classic arcade game. Sure, it's never going to live up to something like Final Fight or anything like Streets of Rage on the console side of things, but it was fun on release and it is a game that is fondly remembered. But the real question is, why is it remembered in the first place? And I think it's just down to the overall charming graphical nature, the super deformed sprites, and the colorful backgrounds. But as far as the actual gameplay and the game in and of itself is concerned, I would say this is maybe C+ to B- tier. And that's not a knock against the game. If you love it, everyone has an opinion here. It's just been one of those titles I've always played it and wanted to see it in motion, but about halfway through I definitely get a little bit bored. But it does have some great music, and of course as an FPGA core we want to see how that music is doing, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and I'll come back and show you the back half of the Combatribes, because it actually does get a little bit more interesting. They saved the best for last. But here comes the music, enjoy, and I'll be right back. The music, the sound effects, everything sounds correct in the FPGA core, and I will give Technos Japan high marks for the music. It definitely has a vibe and an atmosphere and really does help the gameplay out. But as we're into this high-rise tower here, trying to get to the top floor, this is one of the levels where you realize the Combatribes actually has something going on. And like I said, that's why I really think that this game was never 100% finished, because some stages like this you're going to be going through different floors, you're going to be going through elevators, you're going to be having a fight on the helipad on the top of the building. It really does feel like there is progress to be made, but then other stages you're going to see everything it has to offer in the first 20 seconds, but you're still going to be there for 3, 4, or 5 minutes actually having a fight. And you'll see here we pop into the stairwell, we go ahead upstairs to get to the fight on the heliport, and this is where the game again excels. The combat is fun, the characters are fun. If you play this with a second player, it's even going to be even better. It has all the things necessary to be a fun beat 'em up. It just absolutely drags in the beginning and in the end. The middle of this game is like a B+ tier effort, but the beginning and the end is definitely in that C- category. But that's okay, not every single game is going to be one of the best arcade games of all time, and it is fun to get some of the second tier beat 'em ups and arcade cores on something like Analogue Pocket as well, and that's always something that we should celebrate, being able to play new different games. But again, I'm assuming most people will have not played the Combatribes, but you tell me down below. And as we get into the final stage here, this one basically takes a third of the game's entire runtime. As far as the controls on the core are concerned, again, they're responsive and good, but there's nothing that the core can do to make this last level be any shorter. You're just going to fight and fight and fight, and you're going to have the same boss battles with the same bosses you've beaten already, and they don't even really seem to have a truncated health bar, and it's not like any of the enemies in this game have a health bar in general. You just continue to hit them until they finally fall down and they're dead. Like the Native American from the baseball field right here is going to come back again, and we're going to have to fight him every single boss you saw, and that's something that pretty much every other beat 'em up does, and you can't knock Technos Japan for doing it, but it is one of those situations where you kind of just wish like they were a little more creative, because as soon as you beat him, the enemy from the helipad is going to come back, and you can see here we haven't really gone more than like 2 screens worth to the right until we hit an obstruction. And that is just why this game's always confused me. That one level in the high rise where you have to get to the top, absolutely amazing. And I love that what you think is going on in the story is actually slightly different towards the end here. Dude just had his entire intestines burst through his stomach from the back end, and now we're on to the final boss fight. And when I say this boss fight takes absolutely forever, I 100% mean it. The one good thing, at least in an arcade core and not an arcade board, is you can just credit feed this thing, and your health remaining is going to be directly tied to how many credits you put in the machine. But one more soundtrack sample, 30 seconds, because I do think this game has great music, and I'll be back and tell you what I think of the core as far as review. But enjoy. Again, sounds great to my ear. So as far as an FPGA core is concerned, this is just the Combatribes. It's doing the same thing MAME would do, and it's doing the same thing original hardware would do. But unfortunately, FPGA code cannot improve gameplay, and while the Combatribes in the middle is a fun experience, the beginning and the end definitely could have used some improvements. But it's still fun to get another core for Analogue Pocket, something you just kind of pop around, play a little bit, decide whether or not you want to see the ending, and if you don't, you can switch over to a different core. Because Technos Japan was one of those developers. They were definitely hot or cold, up or down. They either made absolute hits or they made games that people didn't 100% love, and the Combatribes is definitely a divisive one at that. But again, you tell me down below, as far as beat 'em ups are concerned, where would you rank this one? A, B, C, D, or F tier? But short of that, we are done. Next time there's a new core to talk about, I'll have another video, but you can use your updater and download this today, but you do need to be a Patreon member to get that key. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.